there, Rishabh. Wow, I like your energy to begin with.
Hello, ma'am. It's an honor.
Hi.
It's an honor and a privilege to be able to speak to you.
Well, that's wonderful. And I can see through the waves, I'm going to get a lot of energy from you too, Rishabh.
Ma'am, these waves are the energy waves.
That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about energy, youthful energy, Rishabh. I think we
Ma'am,
all need that now.
ma'am, at the start of the show, let me just formally introduce, I think, one of the most iconic names in India and one of the most iconic surnames of our country. She doesn't need any introduction. Uh, she's related to the very famous Arundhati Roy. She's also part of the same family which has her brother-in-law and her sister who run, I think, which is the finest TV channel and the most non-biased TV channel in our country, which is NDTV. And I think one of my personal favorite politicians, Prakash sir, is her husband. But I think nephew, niece, and the rest of the family combined, if there is one person who stands out in the family, it's the person who's talking to me today. So it is a pleasure and honor for all of us young people and all the students at IIMUN to be able to speak to the first woman member of the Politburo in the CPIM party, and a person who people across party lines revere. But ma'am, it's an honor to be able to welcome you to IIMUN Officials Kuch To Karuna.
Thank you very much. And I am very honored also to be here, part of the youthful world. And I just actually only just recently heard about this wonderful project of yours, stretching across continents, because today, since we are in a position where we are all globally affected by this pandemic, it's all the more required to stretch out across continents, across our own country, and help each other through this.
No, ma'am, it's very, very true. The idea is to try to unite nations by spreading the idea of India. And the reason why we try to keep this the organization low profile is because I think I have the lowest profile, so it really helps maintain the very low profile that the organization has. But many from
Rishabh, I can't believe your low profile. Maaf karna, Rishabh. When I first heard you, I told my other young friend who was on the phone with me, ye kya chal raha hai? Wonderful. That's the way it must be. Great. Articulate, strong, fun. That's the way.
I think she's very polite and very humble. She must be telling the other person on the phone saying, are you sure he's the same Rishabh who's supposed to have started this organization? Are you 150% confident it's the same man that I'm talking to? Because I don't think so. But ma'am, the first question I must ask you is, what according to you has been the biggest positive of this pandemic? What is the biggest positive of coronavirus?
I think the biggest positive as far as our own country is concerned is the fact that in spite of all the hardship, the suffering, the difficulties that the mass of people in India face, they understood the requirement of staying locked down. It was a huge sacrifice for so many people and so many young people. I mean, if you look at the profile of the migrant workers today, they're all young people, just like you, Rishabh. And the fact that they could keep that strong stability in their minds and their hearts to stay strong through this, I think it's a wonderful quality that was expressed in this. And I think that's very positive, because when people are suffering so much can do it, I'm sure the rest of the world can learn from that.
No, it's very true what you did mention, that, you know, in terms of how the migrant workers coped up with the entire situation is something that all of us can learn from. Ma'am, they're similar in age, and also I, with my unkempt beard and my not made hair, also look very similar. But but one of the things I must ask you is also that the government has doled out this package of 20 lakh crore. As somebody who has a profound understanding of economics, as well as apart from, you know, the 100 other subjects that you master in, let me ask you, what do you think of the 20 lakh crore that has been set aside?
Do you know that saying in Hindi? Khoda pahar aur nikli chuhiya. You know that saying? Huh? I mean, translated for your friends who may not know Hindi, it's basically digging a mountain to find a molehill. Because if you look at the 20 lakh crores, what is actually the outgo from the government side? What is the fiscal expenditure from the government? I'm just trying to calculate it. But today, one of the prominent papers in India, their calculation, which I agree with, the actual cash outflows just 25,500 crores till yesterday's package. And today's package, if you add it, I don't think it will come to more than 50,000 or 60,000 crores. Cash I'm talking about. The rest is all loans, Rishabh. Now, I work with street vendors. We have a big organization of street vendors. When I think of their position, the last thing they need are loans because they're already in so much debt. What has the government done? Instead of giving an outright grant of 10,000 rupees each, which would certainly have gone some way to help them, they're saying, okay, take loans from the bank. You take loans from the bank, you have to return the loans. It's the same as SMEs. You're giving loans to them, but you're not saying they're interest-free loans. And as everybody knows, how are the MSMEs going to get on their feet again unless they have a huge infusion of liquidity without strings?
Correct.
So, you're very generously telling the banks to give loans. You're saying you stand guarantor for the loans. They don't have to give collateral. That's about it. So where is the money? What we need, Rishabh? Those lakhs of workers were going home. They need cash in their pockets.
Correct.
They need money. So that is what the government should have done, as so many countries across the world have done. They have done direct cash transfers.
Right.
That government has not done. That is what is so unfortunate and shocking.
Ma'am, and on a slightly lighter note, what you said is absolutely correct. And I concur that, direct cash transfers, I think, is a great idea. The last part of what you just specifically mentioned. But at the same point in time, one of the other people who need direct cash transfers are this young organization called IIMUN. Also
Right. Surely, for sure.
Ma'am, another thing that I must touch upon, because I have you here, is in terms of, and this is the second part of what we do. It's called Tum Bhi Corona. So we've taken the word Corona and we've added things before and after. The thing that I must ask you is, has your life changed? As somebody who's working round the clock, even after all your accomplishments, you yet continue to inspire by almost working round the clock. Has life changed for you in the pandemic?
Well, the work has not, the fact that, there's still long working hours has not changed. But certainly the type of work has changed. And that is what I'm so sad about. Because basically my work has always been direct contact with people and different sections of people. And the organizations I work with also are organizations who are directly on a daily basis in contact with people, helping people, working things out, discussions, etc. So being at home like this.
Sorry to interrupt, but like IIMUN, organizations such as no, sorry. It's a very bad plug.
Okay, fine. I don't mind those breaks. I don't mind those promotion breaks at all. Go ahead as many times as you want. Only next time you do it, I have a condition. You do it with a jingle. Only whatever it is. Do it with a jingle and then I'll say, okay, go ahead. Not without a jingle. No, that's the difference in the, it's the kind of work, because now, like, I'd love to meet you, Rishabh, but, here we are on Instagram. First time I've ever been on Instagram, by the way. But anyway.
Yay!
Hey, absolutely. I think it's going to be the first and last time I'm on Instagram. But anyway, forget that.
Is it going so badly that
I have enough problems to deal with rather than getting trolled on all these social media platforms. Forget it, Rishabh.
But
if you lend me your energy to deal with it, okay, I'll do it. But otherwise, forget it. I have other ways of bringing my message to whom I want to. But anyway, what I was saying is So the nature of the work, in the sense of direct contacts and meeting people and getting energy from them and learning from them, you know, that's become a little distant right now. I hope it's going to change soon, but we can't say really.
Ma'am, you were talking about trolling, but I would request you to see all the comments out there. If you can see the comments on the bottom left, there's "You are amazing." "Yay, what an honor." "No one is trolling you. Everyone loves you. You are such an inspiration." We want you to join.
That's promoting.
Actually, Instagram has secretly paid us some money. They told us saying, you need to get Brinda Karat ji. She's one of the most...
The last thing. Absolutely the last person.
Let me take you to another topic. Sitting at home, especially for young people who are between the age brackets of 13 to 30. This
13 to 30, forget it.
For these people,
that's too wide a range.
But what would you recommend that they sit at home and do? Because I've so many friends, my sister, my younger sibling, and all her friends, and it's as much of Netflix that we can do. But beyond the Netflix, what is it that young people...
Give yourself a goal. Okay, I tell you, give yourself a goal of learning something while you're in lockdown. You could learn a language, you could learn how to dance, you could learn how to sing, you could learn how to cook. Whatever, learn something which is going to enhance your skill. From 13 to 30, that's the time to do it. I think that's wonderful if you can do that. So that's one thing, learn something. 2, read at least a couple of hours, not Netflix, etc. Okay, watch Netflix if you want to, but give yourself a task of reading. That's wonderful. And also dance, do a lot of Arabic dancing to keep your spirits up. That's also very critical, because being alone at home, it is very taxing for young people. I mean, to be with your parents, your grandparents, it's fine for, the first couple of days, but you miss your friends, you miss the school atmosphere, you miss being in college and, going out, having a coffee, etc. So there is also a feeling of loneliness and depression which can come. And the best way to deal with that is not Instagram, my dear Rishabh. I'll tell you a joke, okay? So there were 3 guys in France and they were going to be guillotined. Those days there was a guillotine. There's an Indian among them, a Brit, a French, a person from Britain, a Frenchman, and our beloved Hindustani. So just as the guillotine was going to come down, you have to ask somebody, okay, give us, what's your last wish? They said, we want this and that is a meal. So he ordered, the guy from Britain ordered a steak and kidney pie. So he ate the pie, went to the guillotine, put his head down, guillotine was coming down. Oh God, it got bad right at the last moment. So he was so happy because, the rule is if the guillotine fails the first time, okay, you're free. Same thing happened with the Frenchman. So our Hindustani, clever man, who was watching all this, when they came to ask him and said, "Bataiye ji, aapka last wish kya hai?" He said, "Are chodo, ye last wish fish kya hai? Pehle system to theek kar." So that's like Instagram. Pehle system to theek kar.
Pehle system to theek kar. I think it's very aptly put, especially for this age bracket of 13 to 30.
They can tell their parents, right? When they're missing online classes, when they're bunking online classes, they can always blame the internet and say, "Are pehle system to theek kar."
So all of you who want to bunk school, who want to give excuses No, but ma'am, that I think you've definitely infused the positivity. And I'm glad you did that, because most of the time people just laugh, not at my jokes, but they laugh at me. But as long as they're laughing, that's the important thing. But ma'am, moving forward, I'm sure you are a voracious reader. Is there a book that you'd like to recommend to young people to read?
Well, I think biographies are very, very interesting. Autobiographies and biographies. So depending on, the the area in which they're interested in, they should
Right.
read people's biography because it can really be quite inspiring. I mean, I was reading a biography of one of my comrades called Godavari Parulekar, who was born in Maharashtra into a well-off family, and she gave up everything and went to work among the Adivasis. And it's such an inspiring book by Godavari Parulekar. So that's, one of the books that young people can read. Because when you learn about other people and how they struggle in their lives, it really is quite inspirational sometimes.
No, so it's basically books that get you inspired. And
Well,
if I may ask you,
yes.
and
Yes.
if I may ask you, who's your biggest inspiration? Who would, ma'am? You are, for a lot of us, an inspiration, but for you, who is your inspiration?
Well, if I could say, there's just not one inspiration, quite frankly, Rishabh. But when I came and when I, left I changed my entire life, transformed my life. I don't come from a very political family in that sense. My father was in the corporate sector, and I lost my mother when I was very young. She had been quite involved in the freedom struggle. She was an admirer of Subhash Chandra Bose, as many Bengalis are. But in any case, so I came to politics entirely on my own. And at that time, there were two people who really inspired me. One was our comrade Jyoti Basu, the legendary figure of Bengal, the longest serving chief minister. And the other was the secretary of our party in those days, a person called P. Sundaraya, who was also a great inspiration.
Oh, how lovely, how lovely. And the Jyoti Basu, of course, is a legendary name, and I think everybody who follows Indian politics or knows a little bit about Indian politics also knows about Jyoti Basu. But ma'am, I must ask you this question as well, whilst we have you, is what is, according to you, your idea of India? Because I'm sure you have a very interesting take, especially in the given times. What, according to you, is your idea of India, more specifically also for young people? Because all of these young people are listening. I want you to explain what your idea of India ideally is.
Well, India is a country which has, through the years, gained so much experience. One, in learning that the greatest strength of our country is the unity of the people. When people are united with a single purpose, for example, today we are all united, or we should be united, in finding out the best ways to save the country from this virus and to take it forward. So that is one aspect which we always must remember. It is only unity, regardless of our religion, our religious beliefs, our caste, our creed, where we live, whether we're men or women or transgender. It is really, it is really the importance of the unity of India, which is really the idea of India to me. And the second is the knowledge that we have gained and the brilliance of Indians in so many fields all over the world. That must be garnered to deal with the huge inequalities that we face in India. So my idea of India would be an India which could use its scientific expertise, use its technological brilliance, use the deep knowledge we have, our own philosophies, to be able to lessen the inequalities, to make India a more equal society with equal opportunities for all our people. I hate to think that while I'm sitting here enjoying this wonderful chat with you, so many lakhs and thousands of people are on the roads today. So we've got to keep that in our mind, Rishabh. I mean, we don't have to, join politics to do that, but we need to imbibe those experiences and in our day-to-day lives, wherever we are, in college, in school, as young entrepreneurs, as founders of organizations like Rishabh is, all that. Remember that. It's unity to deal and to be sensitive to the fact of those inequalities and how, in our own way, we can lessen the inequalities that this system seems to be best at intensifying.
This is the reason why I asked you this question, because your idea of India is very intriguing and interesting, and I think that perspective is something that young people should also be exposed to. But let me take you to the last part of what we do. It's a fun rapid fire, and
okay.
with your permission, I would request you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind when I say the following words. So I'll give you a word.
Oh, God. That's dangerous.
No, ma'am. On Instagram, there is nobody asking you. The nation wants to know. There is no nation wants to know in this. It's only IIMUN and young people who want to know, who are politically agnostic, but at the same point in time politically sensitive. So what we'd like to ask you is this: if I were to mention the word coronavirus, ma'am, what is the first thing that would come to mind?
Amit Shah.
The Bharatiya Janata Party.
Hatred.
Food.
Starvation.
Ideology.
Equality.
Cinema.
Irfan Khan.
Inspiration. And I already asked you inspiration, so Jyoti Basu, I will take that as Jyoti Basu out there.
And Sundaraya. Basu and Sundaraya.
And Sundaraya. Love. When somebody says love.
Grandchild.
The Trinamool Congress.
Violence.
Democracy.
Democracy. Ambedkar.
And Ambedkar, of course. And because I overlapped one question, I'm going to ask you this. When somebody says peace, what comes to mind?
Yoga.
And last and the final one, the 10th one, is when somebody says IIMUN. When someone says IIMUN, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Energy.
Yay! Super, ma'am. It's been an honor. But before we let you go, there have been so many people who've been wanting to ask questions. With your permission, if you wouldn't mind, could I take 2 questions from the audience?
Yeah, sure.
Lovely. The first question is, from the beginning, and it'll just flash in front of your screen. There's a girl called Shreya Satish who says, from the beginning of your journey up until now, what has changed majorly in politics? What has changed in politics?
What's changed in politics is the huge role that money plays today in politics. It's dirting our politics, it's polluting our politics, and it's most dangerous for our country, the way huge money is now determining so many things in our democratic process.
So that's the one big change in politics since the time you joined.
Definitely. The use of money to influence politics, particularly electoral politics. I mean, a poor man or a poor woman can't stand in elections today. It's virtually impossible.
One of the things that I've always find intriguing, ma'am, I'm sorry I'm asking my question in this, is that, you know, there's a specific amount of money that you're allowed to spend.
That's a joke. And I'm very sorry to say, Rishabh, even the systems which are there to prevent that happening, they somehow just dilute everything which is to be there. The systems themselves, जैसे मैंने कहा, system तो ठीक कर.
And the last question that I'll just pin up out here, it says, what does it take to be a comrade in the 21st century?
You have to have a big heart. You have to be able to love people. You have to be able to identify with the problem of those who are the targets of really ruthless exploitation. And once you do that, then everything else will fall into place.
Lovely. And And the absolute final question, I promise you, is because this is a very interesting one, because I know there's so many, ma'am, you'd be happy to know there's so many students from IIMUN who've gone on to join politics, some even now joining the parliament. Therefore, I wanted to ask you this question: what's your message to all aspiring politicians out here?
You must come into politics. It's important for you to come into politics. But my dear young friends, remember, politics is not just about votes. Politics is about changing people's lives. Politics is about mobilizing, organizing, serving people. You don't have to be in parliament. You don't have to be, that should not be your aim in politics. Your
Correct.
aim in politics must be the aim and goal of changing the lives of people through organizing, mobilizing, agitating, and giving them a voice. That is what politics is about.
That's very, very, very articulately put. And this is the reason why I think there are very few people who agree to come on a studio debate with you or an actual debate with you. But ma'am, it's been...
Rishabh, I like your laugh. Let me hear it once again.
now it's embarrassing. Now I'm getting conscious. but ma'am, it's been a pleasure, a privilege, and an absolute honor. You said the real reason why we should be doing what we do is to become an instrument of change and to effect change. I think one of the things that you've taught us today is don't just Instagram, but try to bring about some exercise both in your life and actually on ground. I must say that it's been an out-and-out honor. I do hope sincerely that we do get an opportunity to host you on the other side of COVID-19.
Thank you so much for asking me. Thank you. It was wonderful meeting you. I hope we can meet in person, Rishabh. I hope someday we can meet in person.
Ma'am, I was just going to say that I was just going to ask you, saying, why didn't you mention anything about coming back again? And then you answered it saying that you'd love to meet me again. So this interview was good. It was a success.
Bye, Rishabh.
Bye, ma'am. Bye.